Rain hammered against the windows of a quiet suburban home, turning the world outside into a blurred watercolor of gray. Inside, 5-year-old Max pressed his face against the cold glass, his breath fogging up the pane. With every exhale, he made circles that expanded and disappeared, like the rhythm of his thoughts. Quiet, curious, waiting. Max wasn't like most children. He had a stillness about him, a kind of ancient patience that felt out of place in someone so young. That day, something in the air tugged at him. It wasn't just the storm. It was the emptiness across the street. The house that had stood silent for months, darker than the clouds that cloaked the sky. From the kitchen came the clinking of utensils and the soft bubbling of tomato sauce. Max's mother, Lily, moved, around with the easy rhythm of habit. "Stay away from the windows, sweetheart," she called out without turning. "Dinner's almost ready. Dad should be home any minute." But Max didn't move. His eyes stayed fixed on the house across the street, a place that once brimmed with life. The Hendersons had moved out quickly, too quickly according to neighborhood whispers, and since then it had been a house without a story. Until today. "Mom," Max said softly, "why doesn't anyone live there?" Lily wiped her hands and looked outside, her gaze lingering a little too long. They moved after the babies came, needed more space. She didn't mention the foreclosure or the arguments late at night that sometimes spilled out into the street. Max was a child, but somehow she always felt like he saw more than she said. "Will someone new come?" "Someday," Lily replied. Max stepped down from the window, his little fingers brushing against the cool surface one last time, before heading toward the kitchen to set the table. Forks, napkins, plates. His small hands moved with practiced care. Outside, the rain showed no signs of stopping. The storm was settling in, claiming the evening for itself. Then a sound. Faint, almost not there. A whimper. Max froze, the glass he held hovering inches above the table. There it was again, soft, high-pitched, scared. "Mom," he whispered, his voice tight with something he didn't understand. "Yes, sweetie? I heard something." It's the storm, Max. Wind always makes strange noises. But Max knew storms. He knew what wind sounded like. This was different. This was alive. Without another word, he ran to the front door. The world outside was drenched, a wet, trembling thing. His mother's voice called after him, but it was too late. He was already in the rain, crossing the street barefoot, heart pounding, drawn by something urgent and invisible. Behind the vacant house, tangled in bushes and shadow, he found her. A German shepherd, large and trembling in a metal cage soaked to the bone. Her amber eyes met his, and in that instant, something passed between them. Not words, not even thoughts. Just pain, hope. A silent scream he somehow heard. He didn't know her name yet. He didn't know the danger that placed her there. All he knew was that someone had locked her in that cage and left her to the rain, and she had waited. For him. Max meets Luna. Lily joins him. The whimpering becomes louder. The cage, the lock, the fear in the dog's eyes. A child's certainty meets a mother's fear. Max insists, "She picked us." And somehow, Lily believes him. This was no ordinary evening. And Max was no ordinary child. The bond formed that day between a boy and a broken dog would not only change one life, but many. And it all began with a storm, a window, and a whisper in the rain. Rain hammered against the windows of a quiet suburban home, turning the world outside into a blurred watercolor of gray. Inside, 5-year-old Max pressed his face against the cold glass, his breath fogging up the pane. With every exhale, he made circles that expanded and disappeared, like the rhythm of his thoughts. Quiet, curious, waiting. Max wasn't like most children. He had a stillness about him, a kind of ancient patience that felt out of place in someone so young. That day, Something in the air tugged at him. It wasn't just the storm. It was the emptiness across the street. The house that had stood silent for months, darker than the clouds that cloaked the sky. From the kitchen came the clinking of utensils and the soft bubbling of tomato sauce. Max's mother, Lily, moved, around with the easy rhythm of habit. "Stay away from the windows, sweetheart," she called out without turning. "Dinner's almost ready. Dad should be home any minute." But Max didn't move. His eyes stayed fixed on the house across the street, a place that once brimmed with life. The Hendersons had moved out quickly, too quickly according to neighborhood whispers, and since then it had been a house without a story. Until today. "Mom," Max said softly, "why doesn't anyone live there?" Lily wiped her hands and looked outside, her gaze lingering a little too long. They moved after the babies came, needed more space. She didn't mention the foreclosure or the arguments late at night that sometimes spilled out into the street. Max was a child, but somehow she always felt like he saw more than she said. "Will someone new come?" "Someday," Lily replied. Max stepped down from the window, his little fingers brushing against the cool surface one last time, before heading toward the kitchen to set the table. Forks, napkins, plates. His small hands moved with practiced care. Outside, the rain showed no signs of stopping. The storm was settling in, claiming the evening for itself. Then a sound. Faint. Almost not there. A whimper. Max froze, the glass he held hovering inches above the table. There it was again. Soft, high-pitched, scared. "Mom," he whispered, his voice tight with something he didn't understand. "Yes, sweetie? I heard something." "It's the storm, Max. Wind always makes strange noises." But Max knew storms. He knew what wind sounded like. This was different. This was alive. Without another word, he ran to the front door. The world outside was drenched, a wet, trembling thing. His mother's voice called after him, but it was too late. He was already in the rain, crossing the street barefoot, heart pounding, drawn by something urgent and invisible. Behind the vacant house, tangled in bushes and shadow, he found her. A German shepherd, large and trembling in a metal cage soaked to the bone. Her amber eyes met his, and in that instant, something passed between them. Not words, not even thoughts, just pain, hope. A silent scream he somehow heard. He didn't know her name yet. He didn't know the danger that placed her there. All he knew was that someone had locked her in that cage and left her to the rain, and she had waited for him. He reached his hand toward the bars slowly, cautiously. The dog didn't move. Then, with a gentle motion, she nudged her nose forward and pressed it to his fingers. Her touch was cold, shaking, but unmistakably alive. A connection sparked, small but undeniable. Max stayed there, kneeling in the mud, whispering softly. He told her it was going to be okay, that she wasn't alone. He didn't understand why he was so sure, only that he was. Something inside him knew. This moment mattered. Lily's voice cut through the storm as she crossed the street, shoes slapping against the pavement. "Max!" She stopped short when she saw the cage. Her heart lurched, and for a moment fear twisted her stomach. But when she saw Max's small frame kneeling beside the dog, when she heard the whimpering and saw the way the dog leaned toward him, her fear turned into something else. "Is she okay?" Lily asked, voice shaking. Max didn't look away. "She's scared, but she's not dangerous. She's waiting for us." Lily knelt beside him, rain soaking through her sleeves. Her eyes locked with the dog's, and in that gaze she saw it, too. Fear, pain, but also a flicker of hope. And in her son's face she saw something even stronger. Certainty. The dog whimpered again, louder this time. Lily's hand reached for the lock, but it was rusted shut. She looked around helplessly. Then at Max. "We can't leave her like this." Max's reply was immediate. "She picked us, somehow, impossibly." Lily believed him. Back inside the house, Max couldn't sleep. He kept returning to the window, watching the rain trace crooked paths down the glass. In his mind, he saw those amber eyes again, haunted, pleading. He couldn't understand how someone could do that, how they could hurt something so beautiful and leave it behind like trash. Downstairs, Lily and Ryan spoke in hushed voices. She told him everything, about the dog, about Max's insistence, about the way the animal responded to their son. Ryan was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Maybe it's fate. Maybe that dog needed us." And Max was the only one who heard. Lily nodded, not because she fully understood, but because she believed it too. The next morning, the storm had passed. The world looked different, cleaner, as if the night had washed away more than just dirt. Max raced down the stairs and stood at the door. "Can I go see her?" he asked. Ryan nodded. "Let's all go." They crossed the street together. This time with towels, blankets, and bowls of warm food. As they approached, a quiet bark greeted them. Not loud, not aggressive, just hopeful. Max knelt beside the cage again. "Hi, girl, we're back." The dog stood shakily and wagged her tail, and in that moment, the world shifted. This was no ordinary evening, and Max was no ordinary child. The bond, formed that day between a boy and a broken dog, would not only change one life but many, and it all began with a storm, a window, and a whisper in the rain. The day after the storm, the neighborhood stirred awake beneath a veil of fog. Lawns glistened with dew, and rooftops dripped the last of the night's tears. But inside the house across from the Henderson place, something had shifted, subtly, silently. Luna was no longer in a cage. She lay curled in a makeshift bed fashioned from old towels and a thick duvet, placed gently in the garage where the family had created a safe haven for her. Though still too weak to stand for long, her ears perked at the sound of Max's footsteps. Max approached with the reverence of a boy entering a sacred place. He moved slowly, carefully, his hands carrying a small bowl of chicken broth. "Good morning, Luna," he said softly. She responded with a gentle thump of her tail against the floor. The connection between them was no longer just a mystery. It was a language. Max didn't need to be told how to move or when to speak. He just knew when to give space, when to stay near, and Luna, for all her trauma and pain, responded to that trust in kind. That morning, Lily called a vet friend, someone who occasionally helped strays. Dr. Annika Patel arrived just before noon, her eyes widening at the sight of Luna. "She's pregnant," Annika confirmed after a gentle examination. "At least 4 pups, maybe 5. And she's lucky to be alive." She didn't ask where the dog came from. She saw enough in the scars and in Luna's eyes. As Annika left, she whispered to Lily, "Whatever happened to her?" "She escaped something. Bad. Really bad." Lily nodded. "We're not letting her go back." In the days that followed, Luna began to recover. Slowly, her coat regained some of its luster, her appetite returned, and she never left Max's side. He read to her in the afternoons picture books about brave knights and kind animals. She rested her head on his lap, eyes closed, as if his voice stitched something broken back together inside her. But shadows lingered. Ryan noticed a black car parked near the end of their street 2 days in a row. The same car, same driver, watching. He mentioned it to Lily. "You think someone's looking for her?" she asked, her voice taut. "I think someone lost her, and I think they want her back," Max overheard. "They can't have her. She's ours now." They decided to be cautious. Luna was never left outside alone. Ryan installed a camera facing the front yard. Lily began locking the doors even in broad daylight. One night, Max had a dream. In it, Luna was in a place made of concrete and chains. Other dogs circled her, some angry, some scared, all trapped. He woke up crying. She was forced to fight, he told his parents. But she wouldn't hurt anyone, so they hurt her instead. Ryan didn't want to believe it, but the signs were there. The brand, the condition she was found in, the fear that never quite left her eyes. Still, there was light. Luna began to play, tentatively at first, with a soft ball Max rolled toward her, then with more joy, bounding. A few feet across the living room, tail wagging. She even barked once, sharp and loud and free. It startled all of them, including herself. But then she looked at Max and he laughed, and she barked again. They began preparing for the puppies. Annika brought over supplies, heating pads, formula, towels. She's strong enough now, she said. She'll be a great mother. Max spoke to the unborn puppies, pressing his cheek to Luna's belly. You're safe now. Your mom is the, bravest dog in the world. The night the puppies came, the house was hushed. Lily stayed beside Luna the whole time, soothing her through each contraction. Ryan kept Max in his room, but the boy refused to sleep. He stayed awake, fingers clenched, listening. 4 hours later, there were 5 tiny lives curled beside Luna. Max tiptoed in as dawn broke. Luna raised her head and let out a soft, exhausted sigh. You did it, Max whispered. You brought them home. They named the pups together. Echo, Willow, Bruno, Star, and Dot. Each one different. Each one loved. But peace is fragile. One afternoon, while Lily ran errands and Ryan worked a double shift, Max stayed home with Luna and the pups. He was drawing at the kitchen table when he saw it. The black car, back again, parked half a block down. A man stepped out, tall, wearing a hoodie, looking directly at the house. Max froze, his hand trembled as he picked up the phone. Mom, he whispered. He's here. Lily's heart sank. Lock the door. Go to the garage. Stay with Luna. I'm coming. Max ran. Luna sensed the shift immediately, her body tensed, her ears back. She stood protectively over her puppies. They waited in silence, the sound of the front gate creaking, a heavy knock on the door, then nothing. Lily arrived minutes later, breathless. The car was gone. That night, Ryan pulled footage from the camera. The man's face was mostly hidden, but something about him felt practiced, as if he had done this before. They called the police, filed a report, but with no real crime, there wasn't much the authorities could do. Lily sat beside Max that evening, brushing his hair back. You were brave today. Max looked at her. I wasn't scared for me. I was scared for her. Luna rested her head on his lap, her puppies sleeping soundly beside her. They didn't know who the man was, but he knew exactly who they were. Fear doesn't always announce itself with a roar. Sometimes it slips through the cracks of a quiet home, settling in unnoticed, like a fog that grows thicker with each passing day. That was the kind of fear that took hold of Max's family after the letter arrived. They kept it taped behind a cupboard door, as if hiding it might dull its threat. But nothing could erase the words burned into Lily's mind. Return her, or we'll take her back. Luna sensed the shift instantly. Her instincts, once dulled by starvation and exhaustion, now burned bright with a protectiveness that consumed her. She no longer slept soundly. Her ears twitched at every floorboard creak, every gust of wind. Her body positioned itself between her pups and any entrance, garage door, hallway, even the space beneath Max's bed. And Max, though young, understood more than he let on. He stopped drawing with bright colors. His laughter faded. He checked locks, tested windows, and kept a flashlight beneath his pillow. One afternoon, as clouds loomed heavy again, Lily found Max sitting beside Luna in the garage. He wasn't petting her. He wasn't talking. He was just sitting. I don't think she's scared, he said when Lily knelt beside him. I think she's ready. Lily looked at Luna's eyes. He was right. There was no panic in them, only focus. That night, Lily reached out to Officer Carla Hernandez. Max had met her in the park days earlier, and something about her calm presence stayed with him. Carla returned their call immediately. We'll put surveillance on your property, she said. And I want to bring in someone from the task force. Within 2 days, small cameras were disguised among potted plants, microphones embedded in porch lights. A patrol unit began circling the block in unmarked vehicles. But it wasn't just about protection anymore. It was about evidence. Carla suspected Luna had escaped from a larger operation, possibly a fighting ring or illegal breeder. The men who came for her weren't acting out of sentiment. They were trying to retrieve property, or cover tracks. As the preparations mounted, Luna remained calm. Max sat beside her each evening, reading stories, humming softly, letting her lay her head on his legs. Her puppies, Dot, Echo, Bruno, Star, and Willow, slept in a heated box nearby. "They know she's not just their mom," Max said one night. "She's their protector. She's mine, too." Ryan had installed an alarm on the side gate, the one most vulnerable to intrusion. On the 7th night, just after midnight, it chimed. Ryan's heart stuttered. He checked the feed on his tablet. A figure moved near the gate, then another. He called Carla. "They're here," he whispered. Within minutes, the yard was lit by floodlights. 3 men tried to scatter, one into the street, one toward the backyard, one into the alley, but all were quickly apprehended. Their van was found down the road, filled with cages, muzzles, leashes. One had a cattle prod. Inside the garage, Luna didn't move. She didn't growl. She simply stood tall between her puppies and the door, her eyes burning like embers. Max appeared beside her, barefoot and silent. "You don't have to fight," he said, placing a hand on her back. "You already won." Carla entered seconds later. She held her ground. "She always does," Max said. The men were taken into custody. Their phones revealed texts, photos, coordinates, clues to something much bigger. A warehouse 2 counties away. Dozens of dogs. A raid was organized within 48 hours. Luna's rescue had opened a door. Ryan, Lily, and Max weren't allowed to join the operation, but Carla promised to update them. The morning after the raid, she returned, not with stories, but with something else, a small, quivering puppy, barely 6 weeks old, malnourished, quiet. He was in a crate at the back, alone, no name, no records. Max held him gently. "He can stay with us. Luna will help him heal." They named him Chance. Over the following weeks, Luna's story made the news, first local, then national. Not because she was a symbol of victimhood, but because she was a survivor, a mother, a protector, a dog who waited in silence and stood in strength. An animal rescue nonprofit reached out. They wanted to make her the face of a campaign. Healing begins at home. They asked if she could visit schools with Max. "She doesn't like cars much," Max warned. "But she likes stories." Their first visit was quiet. A group of 4th graders in a classroom. Max read a book he had written himself, Luna and the Rain. When he finished, Luna lay her head in his lap, and the room was silent in a different way, the kind that comes when everyone is listening to something bigger than words. Luna didn't bark. She didn't perform tricks. She just existed, whole and unbroken, and children understood. Back home, Dot remained her mother's shadow. Echo went to a family with a daughter who had survived a house fire. Bruno joined a retired Marine with PTSD. Star and Willow were adopted together by twin boys with autism. Each found a place where their presence brought peace. And Max? He stopped whispering at windows. He started writing. Short stories, poems, letters. He spoke at fundraisers. He smiled more. "Do you ever wonder why she picked us?" Lily asked one day. Max nodded. "Because she knew we'd hear her." The day Luna was officially recognized as a therapy dog, Carla attended the small backyard ceremony. She knelt beside the German Shepherd, rubbing behind her ears. "You saved more lives than you know," she said. Luna looked at Max. He looked back, and, in the language only they spoke, something passed between them again. Not fear, not urgency, but peace. Months passed, but the memory of that stormy night, the night Luna was rescued, never truly faded. It lived in Max's drawings, in the curve of Luna's tail when she rested beside him, and in the letters that began to arrive weekly from people, all over the country. Letters from children who had felt invisible, from veterans haunted by silence, from survivors of abuse who saw something familiar in the look Luna had once carried. They called her a miracle, a warrior, a beginning, and Luna. She remained humble, unaware of her fame, still curled each night beside Max, her breathing the rhythm he had grown to find peace in. One morning, a package arrived. Inside was a letter and a framed photograph. The letter was from a woman named Marla in Pennsylvania. She wrote about her daughter Ellie, who had stopped speaking after a traumatic experience. For months, therapists had tried and failed to reach her. Then Ellie saw a video of Max and Luna. She watched it 10 times, Marla wrote. And then she turned to me and said, "I think that dog understands me." It was the first thing she had said in over 6 months. The photograph was of Ellie, smiling, holding a sign that read, "Thank you, Max and Luna." Max stared at the picture for a long time. "Can we meet her?" he asked. So they did. The foundation that had supported Luna's story arranged for Max and his family to visit several cities, sharing their story with schools and shelters. Their first stop, Pennsylvania. When Ellie saw Luna in person, she dropped to her knees and wrapped her arms around the dog's neck. Luna stood perfectly still, then leaned in, her eyes closing. Ellie didn't cry. She simply whispered, "I missed you." It didn't matter that they had never met. Some bonds aren't about time, they're about recognition. Their journey continued. Max and Luna visited Chicago, Dallas, Phoenix. At each stop, they met new faces, heard new stories. But the pattern was always the same. People saw Luna and something inside them shifted. Luna didn't perform. She didn't bark or jump or wag wildly. She simply looked, listened, stayed. At one shelter, they met a man named Jorge who had worked with abused dogs for years. "She's different," he said. "She doesn't just recover, she reflects, like a mirror." But not every visit was easy. In Los Angeles, a woman confronted them after a school talk. She claimed Luna had belonged to her cousin, a man who was arrested during the warehouse raid. "She was part of our family," she said angrily. "He trained her, she was his favorite." Carla, who now traveled with them on occasion, stepped forward. "Ma'am, Luna was found in a cage, abandoned, injured, and pregnant. That's not family, that's cruelty." The woman left, but the moment hung heavy in the air. That night, Max lay beside Luna in their hotel room. "Do you remember him?" he asked. Luna blinked slowly. "You don't have to," Max said. "You're not who they said you were. You're who you became." The tour continued for 6 months. By the end, Luna had appeared on 3 news segments, been featured in a children's book illustrated by Max, and helped raise over $300,000 for animal rescue organizations. Back home, life settled into a new rhythm. Dot had grown into a playful, loyal companion. Chance, the pup rescued from the warehouse, was now part of their family, too. Ryan built a ramp in the backyard for the dogs to run and jump. Lily planted a garden, and Max kept writing. One evening, while sorting mail, Lily found a thick envelope addressed to Max. Inside was an invitation from a National Children's Literature Award Committee. Max's book, Luna and the Rain, had been nominated for Young Author of the Year. At the awards ceremony in New York City, Max wore a suit 2 sizes too big and held Luna's leash with steady hands. When his name was called, he walked onto the stage, looked at the crowd, then down at Luna. "She found me in the rain," he said. "I didn't know how to help her, but she helped me. And if you ever think someone like you can't do something big, just remember a scared dog and a quiet boy saved each other." The room gave him a standing ovation. After the ceremony, a film producer approached the family. "We'd like to make a movie about Luna," he said. Lily hesitated. Ryan asked questions. Max looked at Luna. "She doesn't care about fame," he said. "But if her story helps more animals, more people like us, then okay." Pre-production began that fall. The script was based on Max's original story. He worked closely with the writers, insisting on one thing. Don't make it just about her pain. Make it about her choice to love again. The movie, titled Whispers in the Rain, premiered a year later. Critics called it quietly powerful, and a film that reminds us of the healing we find in unexpected places. Luna didn't attend the red carpet. She stayed home, curled up on Max's bed, her head resting on the hardcover copy of the book that started it all. But her presence was felt in every frame, As the years passed, Luna aged. Her gait slowed, her fur grayed, but her spirit never dimmed. Max grew too, taller, more confident. He began volunteering at shelters, mentoring younger kids. He spoke at animal rights conferences. When Luna passed away, it was a quiet morning. In spring, she lay in the garden, sunlight warming her fur. Max was beside her, reading. She took one last breath and let it go. They buried her beneath the elm tree in the backyard. Max placed a stone that read, "She waited. We listened. And the world changed." But Luna's story didn't end there. Max launched a nonprofit in her name, the Luna Listens Foundation. Its mission was simple: pair rescue animals with children, healing from trauma. Within a year, the program had expanded to 6 states, each animal rescued, each child heard, and every time Max visited a shelter, he brought a copy of his book. He read it aloud, just like he had to Luna. Sometimes the dogs barked. Sometimes they curled up and listened, and sometimes a child in the back would whisper, "I think that dog understands me." Max would smile. "She does," he'd say. "She always did." Years had passed since the night Max stepped into the rain and found Luna, but her presence remained, etched in every chapter of his life, in every life her story had touched. Now 17, Max stood at the podium of a quiet auditorium. Rows of children and adults watched, some with rescue dogs at their feet, others holding books Max had written. Behind him, a banner read, "The Luna Listens Foundation, Annual Gathering of Hope." He looked down at his notes, then back up at the faces. "Waiting. I used to think Luna chose me because I was special," he began. "But I think now she chose me because I was ready to listen." He paused, letting the silence settle. We live in a world full of noise, but the important things, the things that change us, they rarely shout. They whisper, just like Luna did. The crowd was still. Max smiled. After the event, a woman approached with a boy beside her. The boy held a leash at the end of which was a small, trembling mutt. "This is Milo," the woman said. "And this is Max," she added, nodding to her son. The boy looked shyly. "I named him after you." Max knelt down. "That's a big name to carry," the boy smiled. "He's strong." Max looked at the dog, who wagged his tail hesitantly, then moved closer. "He's brave too," Max said. "So are you." Moments like this happened often now. The foundation had spread across the country, pairing hundreds of children with animals who, like Luna, had stories that couldn't be told in words. Therapists reported breakthroughs. Parents wrote letters of thanks. Some children began writing their own books. And in every room Max visited, he carried a worn, leather-bound journal. Luna's journal. It contained sketches, letters, photos, moments. And on the last page, one sentence. "When no one else did, she heard me." Luna's legacy wasn't just about survival or rescue. It was about witnessing, seeing pain without turning away, offering presence instead of solutions. And that was what Max had built his life around. He continued visiting shelters. He trained as a child psychologist. He wrote more books. But he never forgot that all of it began not with action, but with listening. One winter afternoon, Max visited the tree under which Luna was buried. The elm had grown tall, its roots winding deep into the soil. Snow clung to its branches like soft lace. He sat beside the stone and read aloud a new poem. Not all heroes wear armor. Not all guardians roar. Some simply sit in the silence and open an unseen door. He closed the notebook. Silence embraced. And then a sound, a bark. Not Luna's. Dot's. She ran toward him, tail wagging, then sat beside him, head on his knee. Max looked up at the sky, a pale gray wash of clouds. "Still listening, huh?" he said softly. Back inside, his mother was baking. His father read a newspaper. Chance slept at the fireplace. The house felt full. That night, Max wrote a letter. It wasn't addressed. It wasn't meant to be mailed. It was simply something he needed to say. Dear Luna, I miss you every day, but I see you everywhere. In the quiet courage of a child holding a leash for the first time. In the gentle eyes of a dog learning to trust again. You taught me that love doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be real. People say we saved each other, but I think you saved more than just me. You saved a part of the world. Thank you for waiting. Love, Max. He placed the letter inside the journal. The next morning, the sun rose early, casting gold across the backyard. Birds chirped, snow melted. Somewhere in the house, a new puppy barked for the first time, and Max, now a young man shaped by whispers and wonder, walked into the day with quiet strength, because even after Luna was gone, her miracle continued, not in echoes, but in ordinary, extraordinary hearts that listened.